Hello everybody, I'm Kurt, and today I'm going to show you my Barnes & Noble Collectible Edition books collection. I've been collecting these books for a few years now, and I don't have a whole lot of them. But I thought you might like to see the ones I have because they're really cool looking. I think you'll really like them. This is the first one I bought right here. The Wizard of Oz, the first 5 novels by L. Frank Baum. I bought this late in 2017. It has The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, The Marvelous Land of Oz, Ozma of Oz, Dorothy and the Wizard in Oz, and The Road to Oz. Bought this in 2017. It's the very first one that I bought out of the Barnes & Noble Collectible Editions. It's got the original illustrations by W. W. Dinslow and John R. Neal. These are books I've enjoyed, the Oz books. I've enjoyed those since childhood. I've read them so many times. I think, even though my favorite is The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, I think probably the best one in the series is the third one, Ozma of Oz. It's just so well written. Everything flows together perfectly. And the Gnome King is a really good villain. This version, they've reprinted it with a new cover now that doesn't look as nice. So I'm glad I have this, that I have this cover art with it. It's really cool. Now the next one I have is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Other Stories. This is such a cool cover. This one has been reprinted a few different times. The one before this had like a purple cover, and it didn't even have the original illustrations. It had illustrations by some other artist. But I got this one when it came out because this one has the original illustrations by John Tenniel. See, there's one right there. And this also has Through the Looking Glass in it. Let's see if I can find it. There it is. Through the Looking Glass. And then it has a bunch of other stuff by Lewis Carroll, which actually takes up, I think, yeah, more than half the book. But I care mostly about Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. Very wonderful books. By the way, if you guys ever want me to, I could try reading some of the books that I've got in my collection. I could try reading them on this channel, because as far as I know, all the stories are public domain with very few exceptions. So that's that book. Now, the next one I have is The Complete Peter Rabbit. This is, I love the Peter Rabbit stories, and I probably should have grabbed from my shelf. Let me see if I can get it real quick. Alright, so I've got the book now. This is the one from my childhood that I used to read when I was a kid. It has most of the stories in it, but not all of them. And the illustrations are lower quality, which I'm actually a bit more nostalgic for, to be honest, but this is the one I had as a kid for so many years. You can see how well loved it was. But I decided it was time for a new copy. So I got this one, which has every single story in it by Beatrix Potter. I loved reading these when I was a kid and watching the cartoon from the 90s, which faithfully adapted the books, even designs the characters to look like the book illustrations. Taylor of Gloucester is such a nice, sweet story. Tale of Benjamin Bunny. Jeremy Fisher. And the best one, The Tale of Samuel Whiskers or the Roly-Poly Pudding. Such a great story. I would love to read some of these to you guys sometime. Most of these are public domain. I think the only one that isn't is the very last one in here, called The Tale of Little Pig Robinson. That won't be public domain until a few years from now. Let me see when the public 1930, so it won't be public domain until 2026, I believe. But I love this book. I even have a little Peter Rabbit plush. It's so cute. I didn't buy this at Barnes & Noble, but just like you guys might like to see how much I love Peter Rabbit. It's so cute. Alright. And then The Complete Sherlock Holmes. This is one I was waiting for my Barnes & Noble to have for a while, because I love the Sherlock Holmes stories. I read all of them back in my days in school, because the school library had all the books. This has every single Sherlock Holmes story in it. And the cool thing is, most of you probably aren't going to know what I'm talking about unless you know the history of these. It does have the correct version of The Resident Patient, the correct opening to that. You'll have to look that up if you're not sure what I'm talking about, but it does have the correct version. And then my final two, I'm going to talk about these two together, because I feel they kind of go together. I have the Nutcracker, and I have A Christmas Carol and Other Christmas Tales. I bought the Nutcracker on the same day that I bought Sherlock Holmes. Back in November or December, I can't remember which. And one problem, you see, I love the illustrations in this edition. Nice little vintage illustrations. But part of the problem is this is not the original version of the Nutcracker, and I knew that even before buying it, because it says Alexander Dumas right on the cover. The original is by E.T.A. Hoffmann, written in German. And then a few years later, I guess Alexander Dumas, who was French, was a big fan of the story, so he wrote a retelling of it, which is actually, it's the same storyline as the original story. Like, it's not even, I'm not even sure why he felt the need to retell it if he wasn't going to change much of anything. but it's a retelling, but it just doesn't have the same feel. And so that's had its own English translation, but I wanted to get the original Hoffman as well. So I bought this one recently, which is A Christmas Carol and Other Christmas Tales, because I found out that this actually had the Hoffman version in it. But first I'm going to show A Christmas Carol, because I really like the illustrations in that as well. But it's got illustrations by Arthur Rackham. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Arthur Rackham was one of the greatest, artists of the late 1800s, early 1900s. And it also has The Night Before Christmas, with illustrations by Jesse Wilcox Smith. The Night Before Christmas. But I mainly bought it for the Nutcracker, which sounds weird because I do love A Christmas Carol a lot. It is one of my favorites as well. Oh, I love this 2-page spread as well. Very nice art. But this had the original version of the Nutcracker, and these are actually the same illustrations from this book, because like I said, same exact storyline. I believe these illustrations were actually made for the Dumas version, but since it's the same storyline, they work well. Oh, also these color plates by Artist Shaner, I believe is how you pronounce it. But which are completely different, and they kind of clash a little bit with the little black and white illustrations, since they're not the same artist. But I don't know. It is kind of weird, but it's still nice. I like this end paper. What is it? Frontispiece, I think is what it's called, with God, Papa Drosselmeyer, Fritz, Marie with the Nutcracker that she's holding, and a little mouse watching them. Cool little illustrations. This classic one that I think a lot of people have seen, with Marie seeing the Nutcracker on the table, God, Papa Drosselmeyer on the clock. I will probably do an ASMR reading of this at some point, since it is one of my favorites. Marie throwing a shoe. For those only familiar with the ballet, there's this actually complex backstory in the original book that actually didn't make it into the ballet, which is kind of sad. That's a nice illustration, too. I love that. Marie, and just the lighting with the Nutcracker standing in the doorway and talking to Marie on the boat in the Lemonade River. But, yeah, these are books that I will probably have forever. I will read them to my kids if I ever have kids, because I love these stories. That's all for my collection today. If I ever get more, I'll try to show a video of it. Please suggest any stories you'd like to hear from my channel, because I really do enjoy reading books to you guys, and I will see you next time.